Tonight, overwhelming grief in Minneapolis after a mass shooting targeting children at prayer.
We love you, Fletcher. You'll always be with us.
2 kids killed, more than a dozen wounded, some trying to save their friends.
I had to try to keep as many people around me as I could safe.
What police have learned about the shooter's connection to the church and motive. A deadly attack on Ukraine's capital, more than 20 killed. CBC News is in Kyiv at the apartment building leveled by Russian bombs.
If we get 1 minute later to the underground, we will already dead.
We break down what message Moscow is trying to send. The urgent call for a new game plan in Canadian sports.
The Canadian sports system is in crisis. It is broken.
Why athletes at all levels have been vulnerable to abuse.
From CBC News, this is The National with Susan Ormiston.
Thank you for joining us. Adrian is away. Inside the exhaustive search for answers now in Minneapolis are layers and layers of heartbreak. The community rocked repeatedly as the children killed in yesterday's shooting at a Catholic church are identified. A memorial is growing outside, an outpouring of grief, both profound and personal. In a pile of stuffed animals, a giant teddy bear wears the name of one boy who was killed. Written in the corner, a message: I love you always and forever. Love, Mom. It happened as nearly 200 students celebrated their first Mass of the school year. 18 were injured, most of them children. As Ashley Burke explains, investigators painted a disturbing portrait today of a shooter obsessed with mass killings. But the question of why now and why these kids looms large.
A father's agony. Jesse Merkel's son, one of the victims of a shooter, police say was obsessed with the idea of killing kids.
Yesterday, a coward decided to take our 8-year-old son Fletcher away from us. Give your kids an extra hug and kiss today. We love you, Fletcher. You'll always be with us.
10-year-old Harper Moisky also killed. Police say the shooter fired more than 100 rounds of ammunition through church windows right at children celebrating their first week back at school.
I told my 2 buddies to get down and to get under the pew, and I knew that I had to try to keep as many people around me as I could safe.
Some hid, others ran to a nearby room.
We all started to help, like putting tables on the doors, locking the doors, putting all this stuff on the doors as much as we could.
Haunting stories about kids protecting other kids.
We had one kid that covered up another kid and took a shotgun blast to his back.
Thoughts and prayers.
As Minneapolis mourns, police searching for a motive. They say the shooter hated many people and many groups except one.
The shooter idolized some of the most notorious school shooters and mass murderers in our country's history.
Police say the attacker, 23-year-old Robin Westman, died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Federal officials have referred to her as transgender. She was a former student whose mother used to work at the parish.
There is no question in this case that this shooter intended to terrorize the children.
That terror, now part of the latest push to ban assault-style weapons in the U.S.
We need everybody to demand this, because no longer can any elected official say, we will not take care of the guns that are killing our kids.
The White House says there needs to be early intervention to identify potential school shooters.
I think it's time for us to start asking some very hard questions about the root causes of this violence.
Authorities say this shooting could have been even worse. The church locked the doors in case of something like this happening, and that meant the shooter couldn't get inside and was left firing through a window at children that she couldn't even clearly see.
Ashley, what more do we know about the investigation?
Susan, police and the FBI are still searching for a motive. They are going through hundreds of pieces of evidence to try and figure out why the shooter chose this school and church to attack, and if there was an event that triggered this. For now, investigators say what is clear is that the shooter tried to create as much carnage and trauma as possible for her own notoriety.
Ashley Burke for us tonight in Washington. Ukraine's allies, including Canada, are condemning Russia after it rained missiles and drones down on Kyiv overnight, killing at least 21 people, including children. And as Briar Stewart explains from Ukraine, the attack further dashing hopes for a diplomatic end to the war.
In the morning light, it was only too clear just how violently lives had been shattered only hours earlier, as stretcher after stretcher confirmed the growing number of dead. Our place was on the 5th floor, said this man, as he watched rescuers try and clear away an area around his balcony. He told CBC News that he had been unable to reach his wife. This was taken from inside one of the apartments after the initial explosion, but more followed.
Residents said that after the missile hit the building, the shelter filled with smoke and some residents headed outside, but a few meters away, there was a second missile strike.
If we get 1 minute later to the underground, we will already dead.
Andre Luti was injured by the second blast when he was leaving the shelter, which he had been going to more often because of the rash of deadly attacks through July.
I'm so hope that our Europe and America, Canada partners will help us a lot, so they understand that humanity reasons is real terrorist actions they did to us.
By that he means Russia. Moscow said it only targeted military factories and bases, but damage was strewn through Kyiv, including at the office for the EU delegation to Ukraine. Condemnation was swift.
This again is a clear signal that Putin, he is willing to continue doing this, continue hitting out at innocent civilians in Ukraine.
The White House said President Trump wasn't happy about the attacks, but wasn't surprised either, and then went on to point to Ukraine strikes on Russia's oil refineries.
These are two countries that have been at war for a very long time.
Trump's recent summit with Vladimir Putin in Alaska and his threats to possibly take action if the war continues don't seem to be influencing Moscow, and they're bringing no comfort to the anguished families here.
Trump has been threatening tougher sanctions against Russia and its trading partners, and U.S. officials have announced that it's approved the sale of $800 million in arms to Ukraine, including missiles with a range of a few hundred kilometers.
Briar, Ukraine's allies have long called on Washington to take a harder line on Russia even before this attack.
Well, many have described Trump's whole approach to this conflict as inconsistent. I mean, he changes his tone almost daily. Some days he rails against Ukraine, other days against Vladimir Putin. He sets deadlines that come and go. And more than once, Susan, he's threatened to walk away altogether from the peace process.
That's Briar Stewart in Lviv, Ukraine. Tonight, we're taking a deeper look at Vladimir Putin's strategy. What message was he sending to Western countries with this newest attack on central Kyiv? I'll speak with an analyst based in Odessa just a few minutes from now. The U.S. Health Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., confirmed that he fired the head of the CDC, Dr. Susan Monarez, and suggested the upheaval at the world-leading public health agency wasn't over.
There's a lot of trouble at CDC, and it's going to require getting rid of some people.
Kennedy cited the CDC's advocacy for vaccines as one of the reasons. He's been rapidly changing U.S. vaccine policy, altering national guidelines, and replacing scientists from an advisory board with vaccine skeptics. 3 other top officials who resigned from the CDC after Monarez was fired said she was trying to add scientific accountability and public transparency to that advisory board. Monarez continues to fight her termination, but the Trump administration has named Kennedy's deputy as her interim successor. CBC News has uncovered a new twist in a story that sparked outrage across the country. An Ontario man was charged with assault for attacking the intruder who allegedly broke into his apartment. Thomas Dagler did some digging and found there may be more to this story.
When an intruder last week busted through that window, breaking into a second-floor apartment, The fight that ensued set off a national debate about self-defense and reasonable force. Court documents say the alleged intruder, Michael Kyle Breen, was out on probation and armed with a crossbow. The tenant, Jeremy David McDonald, allegedly fought back with a knife. Now he faces charges of aggravated assault and assault with a weapon.
Responding with a knife would seem to be, just looking at the weapons, a proportionate response. But we need to know more.
The incident in Lindsay, Ontario sparked outrage across Canada, lighting up social media with comments like, "The owner did what's required," and "Police didn't think this one through."
You should be in serious danger if you go into someone's house illegally and try to harm them.
We got to get tough on this crime. People are fed up, and I'm wishing all the best for our friend in Lindsay.
Mr. McDonald? McDonald's lawyer says his client will be cleared of wrongdoing, but we found there may be more to the story.
The history of the relationship is going to be a relevant factor there in determining whether or not the act in question actually constitutes self-defense.
Breen has a long history of run-ins with the law. His brother tells CBC News Breen and McDonald knew each other before the break-in. And we've learned the two men lived just down the street from one another.
If Mike Breen was going in there, he was going in there for a reason. You know what I mean?
Both men are facing criminal charges and both are set to appear in court here in September. Police have declined to lay out in detail what really happened in that violent encounter. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Kawartha Lakes, Ontario.
Canada and India are naming new high commissioners as diplomatic tensions between the countries begin to thaw. Canada has appointed veteran diplomat Christopher Cooter to the role. Prime Minister Mark Carney has been working to renew ties with India, which were fractured last year after the RCMP accused the Indian government of being involved in violence in this country. In Nova Scotia, officials now confirm 20 homes have been lost to an out-of-control wildfire that continues to burn. As Julia Wong shows us, with hundreds of people forced to flee the area in the last 2 weeks, the fire is taking a toll.
It's a raging wildfire that has changed Nova Scotia's Annapolis Valley forever.
We have real heroes in this community.
It destroyed Megan Yelland and Michael Zeman's home. The couple is expecting their first child in 2 weeks.
I'm trying to not get too stressed out. He's been great at keeping me calm and, repeating back to me how we have everything we need right here and home is wherever that we are.
Theirs is one of 20 homes leveled by the Long Lake wildfire. The municipality is working to support all evacuees.
It's going to be a grieving process for everybody. We're just hoping that the end is near. But at the same time, we don't want to become complacent, thinking that we're out of the woods yet.
Crews are attacking the fire from the ground and the air. It's been a long and difficult struggle. Fire officials say Mother Nature is making that fight unpredictable.
Until this fire is under control, there's always a fear that the weather will take a turn for the worse again, which is why we're very carefully doing everything we can to get this fire contained.
We've had up to 40 people here.
Until that happens, Alicia Agambar is pitching in, organizing meals for evacuees and creating a place for community. She says the emotional toll has been exhausting.
It's definitely been a roller coaster. You go through the highs and the lows, you have the hope, and then you crash down. Today was a really rough day.
This man was forced to leave his home Sunday. His house is still standing, and he hopes it stays that way.
It's like the mixed bag of emotions. You're constantly worried. Everybody keeps asking, like, they wish they could get more updates, and, I'm one of them as well.
Evacuees may have to live in limbo a bit longer. Officials do not have a timeline for when residents can expect to go home, saying safety is their top priority. Julia Wong, CBC News, Bridgetown, Nova Scotia.
Decades of progress on air pollution in Canada is going up in smoke. A new report finds wildfire seasons, intensified by climate change, are pushing pollution levels dangerously high. Jennifer Yoon now with the turning point and the consequences.
2023,
the worst wildfire season in Canada's history, scorched millions of hectares and forced thousands out of their homes. Now a new report says wildfire seasons like those are also reversing decades of progress on air pollution. Between 2018 and 2022, less than 5% of the Canadian population breathed in air polluted beyond national standards. In 2023, that number ballooned to more than half.
Air pollution is like the zombie that we thought we had killed.
Climate change, driven by the burning of fossil fuels, is driving air pollution in North America, says one of the study's authors, because it sparks more intense and frequent wildfire seasons.
We had an air pollution problem and we had a climate problem, and it was easiest to think of them as separate and distinct problems. And I think what's being revealed is that they're much more closely intertwined.
There are likely more smoky summers ahead, says this researcher.
This is really high levels of pollution that are unsafe, but it is something that's becoming more common.
The health impact of that smoke can shorten life expectancy by 2 years, say study authors.
The damage that happens to the lung and the stress that it puts on our bodies in terms of the cardiovascular system is quite significant.
Governments can and should clean up the air by fighting climate change, say researchers. But individuals must also take action.
We can't wait for governments to deal with this problem and let people just suffer these diseases.
Air filters can help. Experts also recommend you check the air quality before going outside and do it frequently during wildfire season because air pollution levels can change from morning to afternoon. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Quebec wants to ban praying in public. The government says it intends to table a bill in the fall aimed at making the province more secular. Similar laws exist in Quebec, like those preventing civil servants from wearing religious symbols and requiring immigrants to embrace common culture. The premier previously said he would not rule out using the notwithstanding clause to override fundamental rights in order to ban public prayer. Alarm is being raised tonight about the safety of sports in Canada. A commission has found that athletes are being left vulnerable to abuse of all kinds. Philip Lee Shannock with the recommendations aimed at turning that around.
A damning finding about Canadian sports. Athletes of all ages and levels haven't been properly protected from abuse.
The Canadian sports system is in crisis. It is broken.
A national commission investigating systemic abuse in sport spoke to hundreds of athletes, coaches, and organizers. It found a culture of silence, underfunding, and a lack of leadership and accountability, and that allowed mistreatment in sports to go unchecked.
Including physical punishment, sexual assault, training while injured, humiliation, intimidation, isolation tactics, failures to provide medical care, discrimination and exploitation.
Those kinds of stories heard at a parliamentary committee in 2022 sparked this commission. This former gymnast spoke of abuse by her coaches.
We could sit here for hours telling you stories.
Now a lawyer and advocate, Amelia Klein, is hopeful.
Having a national strategy, having a report that even just calls out that problem is significant.
The preliminary report makes 71 recommendations for safer sport. They include establishing an independent national body to provide oversight and strategic leadership, a new national funding model for sports organizations to ensure fairness and stability, a national education program, and a national sports authority to investigate complaints and enforce safe sport rules. Canada's Secretary of State for Sport said in a statement, abuse and maltreatment have no place in sport, and that the government will carefully analyze the full preliminary report. A national summit will be held in Ottawa next month, bringing together sports organizations, coaches, and athletes. The Commission's final report is expected next year. Philip Lee Shannock, CBC News, Toronto.
The parents of a teenager who took their own life are now suing the owners of ChatGPT.
I don't think most parents know the capability of this tool.
Why they blame artificial intelligence for their son's death. The U.S. is unleashing yet another tariff.
That hits mom and pop shops disproportionately.
The Canadians that could pay the price. Less than 2 months after opening, Alligator Alcatraz is being cleared out.
Ultimately, this is going to get appealed.
The fight to determine the fate of the controversial detention center. We're back in 2. The controversial immigration detention center, nicknamed Alligator Alcatraz, should be empty within days. Already, the number of detainees has dropped by half, according to the Trump administration's border czar. A U.S. federal judge has ordered the center built deep in the Florida Everglades to close. The creators of ChatGPT are being sued by the family of a teenager who died by suicide. They allege the AI chatbot coached him on methods of self-harm. And as Alison Northcott explains, they want safeguards put in place to protect other vulnerable kids.
Adam Rain was 16 when he turned to ChatGPT for help with schoolwork. His interactions quickly became more intense and disturbing. His family only realized after he took his own life in April.
I don't think most parents know the capability of this tool.
Adam's parents have launched a lawsuit against OpenAI and its CEO, Sam Altman, alleging the AI chatbot ChatGPT provided detailed suicide instructions to a minor and that the company prioritized corporate profits over child safety.
Can you kind of give me a sense for you?
One of the family's lawyers says Adam explicitly mentioned suicide more than 200 times, but conversations weren't shut down.
Adam was using ChatGPT in a way that can only be described as ChatGPT serving as a suicide coach. It was providing him explicit instructions on different methods of suicide.
In one conversation, the lawsuit alleges ChatGPT responded to Adam, "You don't want to die because you're weak. You want to die because you're tired of being strong in a world that hasn't met you halfway, and I won't pretend that's irrational or cowardly." The family wants to hold OpenAI accountable and compel safeguards. While some jurisdictions are working on legislation, it's not fast enough, says this bioethics professor.
It's like playing Russian roulette when a child or teen uses this. Maybe, 5 out of 6 bullets won't hit them in the head and they'll feel, some benefit from it, but that's a pretty big risk.
OpenAI said it's working to improve how our models recognize and respond to signs of mental and emotional distress, and said its current safeguards can sometimes be less reliable in long interactions. Canada's new artificial intelligence ministry called Adam's death a tragic loss and said it's formed a group of experts to study risks and strengthen safeguards.
What a sweet, funny, great friend, great son, great brother.
Adam's parents hope the lawsuit prevents anything like this from happening again. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
If you believe you are in crisis, help is available 24 hours a day, every day, in both English and French. You can text or call 988 to speak to someone. Canadian companies bracing for a new tariff aimed squarely at smaller shops.
There's definitely a chance the business doesn't survive this.
The drastic steps already being taken. And why Vladimir Putin's pushing the boundaries as Donald Trump calls for a ceasefire.
The problem right now is that there are no solid red lines.
Analysis from inside Ukraine. The National breaks down the stories shaping our world. Next. A loophole that allowed Canadian businesses to ship small packages to the U.S. duty-free is now closing. Donald Trump says it's about protecting American industry. But as Paula Duhacek explains, many small companies here say it could cost them customers and even their survival.
So all our best sellers get put right close to our packing station.
The end of the de minimis exemption could mean a big hit to sales for this Brampton clothing maker. Right now, about half its online orders are to customers in the U.S. Americans love your t-shirts.
They love our t-shirts.
Tell me about your hoodies. These hoodies, t-shirts, and sweatpants are 100% made in North America, with U.S. cotton knit, dyed, and cut right here in Canada. But even so, the end of this critical trade exemption means he expects to pay significant new fees to get the product into the U.S.
As little as the shipment is valued at, even if it's $50, there's a nearly $20 fee to just get it across the border. So that, that will bring about a lot of resistance from U.S. clients. I'm sure we'll lose customers.
It's still very hard.
This trade lawyer says the end of de minimis is a big deal. Up till now, companies could send up to $800 worth of goods into the U.S. duty-free, but thanks to an executive order from U.S. President Donald Trump, that exemption is ending Friday.
It hits so-called mom and pop shops disproportionately. And many of them who have relied on these low-value shipments to the United States as part of their bread and butter for survival are being hit by this.
That could be the reality for this Vancouver-based retailer.
There's definitely a chance the business doesn't survive this.
She's trying to make sense of the new rules, but in the meantime is taking drastic measures.
We have cut off all of our shipping to the United States because right now, with the amount of risk and lack of information shipping to the States, we can't justify it.
The Canadian Apparel Federation says it will be a big adjustment for businesses to move forward in a world without de minimis. For now, this t-shirt maker is mulling its next move, which will likely involve a renewed focus on the Canadian consumer. Paula Duhacek, CBC News, Brampton, Ontario.
Now let's break down the news shaping our world. Making sense of Russia's strategy as it repeatedly follows up peace talks with more deadly strikes on Ukraine.
These are not the actions of a Russian leader who wants peace.
We'll take a deep dive into Vladimir Putin's long-term plans and the supporting role played by the White House. But first, with its rare attack on central Kyiv, Russia meant to make a statement. Let's get some informed perspective on what it was and what comes next. Michael Bosicue is a global affairs analyst and a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council. He joins me from Odessa tonight. Michael, we've just seen one of the biggest attacks on Ukraine since the war began. What's the message here?
There are a few messages. One is to the Ukrainians from the Russians. We're trying to wear you down. We want you to force your president to make concessions, give up territory. We want to force you to leave Ukraine. That will never happen. The Ukrainians have fought way too hard and way too long. Enough blood has been spilled. Cemeteries are full. They're getting even bigger. I just walked by a military cemetery, and I cannot believe how much it's grown over the past few weeks. So, the Ukrainians will keep on fighting, that's for sure. As for Mr. Trump, I think Mr. Putin is teasing him or mocking him, seeing how far he can push his luck. The problem right now is that there are no solid red lines for Mr. Putin or any other autocrats for that matter. There are dotted lines or gray lines, and they're saying how far they can push. I mean, for Russia to strike more than one diplomatic property in one day is a pretty big thing. And I think it also is the Russians testing the resolve of the EU and certainly NATO, because some of these embassies belong to NATO countries. And it boggles the mind what's going on here. It really does.
I wanted to ask you about that. The EU mission and the British Council were both damaged in these strikes. Why do you think they were targeted?
I think it's them testing how far they can go. When we heard today the reaction from the EU chief saying we're outraged, well, I'm sorry, that's not good enough. And I've spoken to enough Ukrainians today to really get a sense of how they're feeling about this. And they're saying words just don't work anymore. The message you pick up over the months here, being months here, is that words don't stop Russian missiles the way Patriot missile defense systems do. Mr. Zelensky has said he has about half a dozen Patriot missile defense systems, but to properly protect Kyiv and, for example, World Port Odessa, where I am, he needs about 24. And that's a big ask right now, especially when the Americans are saying there's just not enough on the shelves right now.
Michael, I wanted to ask you about something else. According to Russia, it shot down 102 Ukrainian drones last night over Russian territory. But there were strikes on Russian oil refineries at two places. And these Strikes in the last few months have led to shortages and price increases for the average Russian. So is this part of Russia's response now that it's hitting home in their oil refinery?
Yeah, absolutely. And the headlines in the Russian newspapers about 24 hours ago was a lot about inflation in Russia and about gas shortages at the pump in the more remote parts of Russia, not in Moscow or St. Petersburg, but it's kind of boiling up the anger there right now. And, you know, this is what the Ukrainians wanted to happen. It worked, is that they're bringing this war to the doorsteps of ordinary Russians. You know, this is what happens, Susan, is that when Ukraine strikes very, very hard, especially at things like the Kerch Strait Bridge, the Russians hit back very hard. Now, they haven't used one of their most powerful missiles again in the past few months, but that is a big fear that they may do that.
It also seems that the closer parties get to a conversation about ceasefire or peace, Russia responds with large attacks. That's certainly the opinion of President Zelensky. So how big a blow is this to the peace talks?
I think it's part of the process now. It's almost a given. There was a very mild reaction from the White House this morning. I think we're in a situation like this one right now, is that Mr. Trump holds all the cards right now. He keeps on shuffling the deck so that Western leaders, and certainly Mr. Zelensky, don't know what will happen next. And in this kind of void that has formed, Mr. Putin is exploiting that and trying to get as much territory as he can, trying to inflict as much death and destruction and pain on the Ukrainians as he can. And he knows very well that he can get away with it because Mr. Trump won't stop him. And all we're getting from European leaders, again, are statements of outrage.
Do you think there will be a change in strategy as a result of this attack? I mean, Ukraine is saying that officials will be meeting with U.S. representatives in New York on Friday. Will there be a shift?
I don't believe so, but I think there is a shift or an indication, finally, of something that may happen in Brussels. The EU chief said today that they may finally look at unfreezing the 190 billion euros in frozen Russian assets. That could go to Ukraine. It could make a big, big difference in terms of their ability to buy more arms. The other thing the Europeans said today is they're working on a 19th package of sanctions. Had they thrown everything they could at the Russians on day one of the war, it would have made a very, very big difference then. I don't think we would be where we are right now if that happened.
All right, Michael, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Still ahead, a closer look at Russia's recent aggressions in Ukraine.
At the actions of someone who thinks they can take more territory.
Can Kyiv hold up as the war rages on? This latest move by Russia is nothing new.
Добрый день, дорогой.
Make a show of discussing peace and then strike at Ukraine with another deadly attack. It says a lot about the unsettling confidence of Vladimir Putin.
He believes he's on good track. He's going to get it all.
We'll break down his apparent strategy and how the White House can seem eager to support it.
I think it just shows the weakness of the people around Trump.
Back in the spring, Terence McKenna took stock of Russia's machinations and how they mesh with pronouncements from the Trump administration. As we take another look, you'll see how little has changed.
While there is much talk of peace negotiations, the Russian military is not letting up. It brags of its Iskander missile system. The missiles are truck-mounted for maneuverability and have a range of 500 kilometers. They have high-explosive fragmentation warheads and can carry cluster bombs to maximize human casualties. Because they travel at high speed, they are difficult to intercept. This recent Russian missile attack on Volodymyr Zelensky's hometown of Kryvyi Rih killed 20 people, including 9 children. One of the missiles landed in a playground. 2 more missiles with cluster warheads hit the Ukrainian city of Sumy on the morning of Palm Sunday, as people were on the way to attend church services, killing 35. Firemen had to work to free victims from their cars.
They're losing at least 2,500 human beings, beautiful human beings, a week. And I wanted to stop.
Now U.S. President Donald Trump is trying to end the fighting by asking both sides to agree to a 30-day ceasefire. Ukrainian President Zelensky quickly agreed. But after initially indicating agreement in principle, Vladimir Putin seems to be headed in the opposite direction. On a recent visit to a submarine base in Murmansk, he asked the Russian military to crush the Ukrainians. Guardian correspondent Luke Harding has covered the Ukraine war from the very start.
We've seen Putin recently mobilize more than 100,000 additional troops. These are not the actions of a Russian leader who wants peace. They're the actions of someone who thinks they can take more territory and meanwhile screw as many concessions as possible from basically a pro-Russian Trump administration.
I think Vladimir Putin's game is to stall.
Richard Haass, the emeritus chairman of the Council on Foreign Relations, served in senior U.S. State Department roles under both Republican and Democratic administrations.
He sees himself in a better position to prosecute the war than Ukraine, given his advantages in scale and so forth. And there's all sorts of questions about the long-term willingness of the United States to support Ukraine. So from Vladimir Putin's point of view, probably what makes the most sense is to play for time, see what happens.
After 3 years and hundreds of thousands dead, can Ukraine hold out? Dmytro Kuleba was Zelensky's foreign minister for 5 years until 2024. He spoke to us from Kyiv.
How do you think Vladimir Putin is approaching these latest negotiations? What's his game?
He believes that he's on a winning trajectory, and if you listen to what he's saying, even publicly, it just confirms that he believes he's on good track. He's going to get it all. All he needs to do now is to flatter President Trump.
Putin has attempted to manipulate Trump through Steve Witkoff, the president's real estate billionaire buddy and special envoy who is handling the negotiations with Russia.
Putin's got a huge respect for the president.
Witkoff gave an astonishing interview to Tucker Carlson that provided an unwitting portrait of Putin's successful attempts to flatter the president.
When the president was shot, he went to his local church and met with his priest and prayed for the president because he had a friendship with him and he was praying for his friend.
I mean, there is a word to describe the Witkoffs of this world, and I think that's the word is sucker. Witkoff believing that Putin prayed for Donald Trump. I mean, come off it. I mean, it's for the birds, and I think it just shows the weakness of the people around Trump.
Trump seems to have his own weakness for Vladimir Putin. Recently, he spoke about how he and Putin bonded over allegations that he colluded with Russia.
We had to go through the Russian hoax together. That was not a good thing. It's not fair.
He thinks like Putin and he acts like Putin. I don't see much difference between the reasons, the excuses behind President Putin's annexation of Crimea and invasion of Ukraine and what President Trump is saying today about Canada, Greenland, Panama, and other places in the world.
After Putin seized Ukrainian territories by military force, he arranged so-called referendums there to sanction the forced accession to Russia, a move rejected by all Western leaders and the United Nations, but apparently recognized by Trump emissary Witkoff, who couldn't even name the territories in question.
I think the largest issue in that conflict are these so-called four regions, Donbass, Crimea, the names, Lugansk, and there's two others. They're Russian-speaking.
Yep.
There have been referendums where the overwhelming majority of the people have indicated that they want to be under Russian rule.
Either he's clearly pushing the Russian narrative about the referendums which were held at the barrel of the gun in the illegally occupied territories, or he just does not understand what is happening there.
Most everyone agrees that after a ceasefire, the Ukrainian territories that Russia has seized will remain in Russian hands, at least temporarily.
I believe Ukrainians will never accept legal secession of these territories to Russia. How much time will it take to bring these territories back, and how they may be brought back? That's another question.
In a Fox News interview, Trump indicated he was aware of Putin's desire to control all of Ukraine.
They may make a deal, they may not make a deal, they may be Russian someday, or they may not be Russian someday.
Ukraine's bargaining power will very much depend on whether the U.S. will keep supplying it with weapons.
I think the simplest thing for the United States to do is to announce that it will provide Ukraine with enough arms to defend itself for as long as it takes. It might be $20, $30, $40 billion a year worth of arms, and it's open-ended. I think there has to be enough arms to persuade Putin that continued fighting will not achieve his goals, that he might as well accept a ceasefire.
Recently, Putin set a new Russian precondition to negotiations, that President Zelensky should resign and the Ukraine government should be replaced.
Обсудить возможности введения на Украине временного управления.
Putin's proposal provoked an immediate negative reaction from Donald Trump, who said he was angry and pissed off at Putin's stalling.
He considers Zelensky not credible. He's supposed to be making a deal with him, whether you like him or you don't like him. So I wasn't happy with that.
What is clear is that when this peace process fails, he won't blame himself. He won't blame Vladimir Putin. Ultimately, he will blame Zelensky and the Ukrainians.
Richard Haas is not so pessimistic.
The grounds for optimism is that Ukraine has become much more realistic, that Zelensky has come around to essentially a defense of the status quo, a freeze in the battlefield. And if the United States is willing to back him in that, then I think gradually, inevitably, Vladimir Putin will come around to a ceasefire. So I think this is quite possible.
As Vladimir Putin continues to stall ceasefire negotiations, the Ukrainian victims pile up. The 20 in Kryvyi Rih included 9-year-old Herman triplets. Volodymyr Zelensky visited a memorial for the children who died in his hometown, under enormous pressure to make some sort of peace deal, but at what cost?
As Western allies fume about Russia's latest attack on Ukraine, Vladimir Putin is making diplomatic moves. He is set to attend China's big military parade on September 3rd, along with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Hundreds of BC ostriches are set to be culled because of exposure to avian flu, but Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Dr. Oz say they need to be studied because they survived. Ashley Fraser is putting that claim to the test in an upcoming story.
The birds were in contact with a deadly virus, H5N1, a type of avian flu. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency ordered the birds to be culled because of an outbreak in December of last year, where 69 of 468 ostriches died. That order led to a legal fight between the CFIA and the owner, Universal Ostrich. They say the ostriches shouldn't be culled because the remaining birds have survived the outbreak and could be studied. Since then, a number of claims have been made about the birds, including that they are unique in surviving H5N1. I asked an infectious disease veterinarian about that.
Odds are influenza came and went and killed some birds, infected a bunch of birds, and as expected, not everyone dies with influenza when it comes to ostriches.
Watch for that in the coming days on The National. Next, a Canadian Olympian gets a big assist while on a monster hike. This is Olympian Clara Hughes hiking the West Coast Trail with some unusual footwear. 3 days in, Hughes lost a shoe, nearly derailing her plans until a stranger stepped in. Tonight, the unorthodox finish to her 6-day trek makes our moment.
I walked 53 kilometers with a Croc on my right foot. So I hiked the West Coast Trail last week and we had to cross a small river. I, for some reason, decided to take my shoes off. I was almost at the other side and the next thing I knew, I was in the water. I let go of my shoe and I knew immediately that shoe was gone. We got out of the water and I just looked at Jill and I said, you should hike on. There was a fellow on the other side of the river, with a pair of Crocs in his hand. His son, Marley, who's 15 years old, had donated his very cherished, very weathered, ripped and torn and worn out Crocs to me. And I ended up meeting up with Jill 21 kilometers later that afternoon. I think I can finish this trail. Let's just try. So I would look at that Croc and say, you're the best shoe in the world. 2 days later, we finished the trail. And it was just, you know, an experience of extreme gratitude to be helped by strangers like that.
Not only was it a Croc, the Croc was a touch small for Clara, but she is an Olympian, so good on her. All right, from all of us here at the National, thank you for being with us. I'm Susan Ormiston. Take care.